Hello guys, this is Raptormon132 here, and welcome to my latest blind commentary of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic fan work. This, as usual, I am doing a blind commentary to something. If you remember way back, I started blind reacting to a series called Memories of the Equestrian Wolf. That's the origin story to the famous brony analyst, DRWolf. Well, I found out recently that he has I had just been notified that he has just uploaded the next chapter, which is chapter 3. So, today I'm going to be blind reacting to chapter 3 of Memories of the Equestrian Wolf. Because, as you know, if you looked at my channel, I blind reacted to chapter 1 and chapter 2. So, now I'm going to blind react to chapter 3. So, what am I expecting from this? Well, I really don't know, but I'm expecting to see a little bit more of a bit more of some backstory, like of Dr. Wolf's OC's backstory. So yeah, it'd be interesting to find out, what's going on. Oh, and if you're actually looking, I'm actually trying out Brony Burning Axe's method, or the new method that's recently come up that is putting a moving background to to avoid copyright. I'm just testing it out now. So yeah, hopefully this moving background I chose is going to be is going to be a good one. Yeah. But anyway, and if it's successful, I'm going to try and use this moving background as well as other moving backgrounds to do my to repost my blind reactions on my MLP blind reactions on YouTube again. And yeah, hopefully this will be good. So yeah. Anyway, without further ado, let's begin with chapter 3 of Memories of Equestrian Wolf. Here we go.
Memories of the Equestrian Wolf. Written by Godzilla Wolf. With artwork by Shadow.
So he gets to meet
Chapter
Princess
3.
Celestia.
Memories of Brotherhood.
Memories of Brotherhood, huh?
It would take some time to fulfill my end of the promise after my brush with death.
That's
Naturally,
Tarek.
Tarek decided to replenish our supplies, so we remained at that oasis for some time.
Yep, that's
It was
Tarek
simply
Dragon,
a
Dr.
pool
Wolf's
of
brother.
clear water, surrounded by green foliage and trees, nothing more. But it did save my life. Since I couldn't move very well in my recovering state, I took the time to reflect on just how different things were for me now. I still had my sensitive ears and nose, but now my eyesight had become far better. My mind was much sharper, and I was even able to apply some of the massive stores of knowledge I'd taken from the library into practice. Some of it. I knew what many of the flowers and plants were. I knew the oasis must have originated from an underground spring. I knew many other things I simply hadn't been able to fully comprehend when I had originally traveled with Master. It wasn't just my body and mind Master had changed profoundly. It was the very fundamentals of how I viewed the world around me. And I believe that was to my benefit. After all, if those first steps out of the library had been the first steps into a new life, wasn't it a positive thing that I had a whole new outlook on the world to take advantage of it? Still, that left the question of what my new life would be, and where I'd live it, what I'd do. At the same time, I didn't even know what Equestria was, let alone that I'd soon be living there. I admit it must sound rather odd that I risked so much to reach a future that I could not know was truly there. But all my life, the only two bonds I had were Tarek and the Master.
The Master,
and for Master I had spent untold years searching for elusive information, all the while without a clue as to what I was looking for. So for Tarek, and myself, I would put just as much effort into searching for a purpose I did not know.
Yeah, sorry to pause it, but I'm actually wondering about, like, if you remember uh, in my last blind reaction, I was of memories of the Equestrian Wolf. I was thinking about the Master, which is this pony. It actually got me thinking: is like, you know how it probably dates back to when Equestria was first funded, which was during when the Wendigos took over, or were attacking the Pegasi, Earth Pony, and Unicorns, and how they go to Equestria. And it just got me wondering, it's possible, and this is probably just a fan theory of a fan fiction, that Dr. Wolf's master is probably Clover the Clever. But at the same time, I kind of doubt it because because of Clover the Clever possibly being female, not male. But then again, we probably don't know for sure if Clover the Clever was male or female. But in the play in Heartswarming Eve, that's in season 2, Twilight played Clover the Clever. But it just got me wondering if it's possible that Dr. Wolf's master was in fact Clover the Clever, since the master was actually a apprentice or student of Starswell the Bearded. Kind of makes you think, doesn't it? But anyway, let's continue. Sorry, just wanted to point that out. Let's continue.
I suppose when you have very little, what you do have or want makes you all the more devoted to it.
I guess
Once
so.
I had recovered, we began to travel again. We were still far from any kind of civilization, deep in the uncharted areas of the world. Tarek tried to find out where I'd once lived and head there to see if anything remained, but naturally the trail had been buried by time, and even if my memories of that time were clear, I don't know if we even left the desert the same way Master and I had entered it. We ultimately decided that it was for the best.
It's probably thousands of years
nice to see
went
the
by.
place I'd once lived. It might also make letting go of the past more difficult than it already was. So we simply traveled for a time across that distant land.
As Mars Kanata from Star Wars Episode 7 would say,
"The belonging you seek is not behind you, it is ahead."
just thought I'd say that quote. Anyway, continue.
We saw many things, many places. So many that to try and describe them all would fill an entire book. We saw vast canyons, distant valleys, lush forests. And as we traveled, we spoke. We spoke about the ways I could find my new place in the world, places I might be able to help. Jarek was confident that there is a place for me. I use is and not was because at the time I needed that distinction. I knew I had a place in the world. I needed to find where I belonged now. I needed that reassurance. I truly did. Being determined did not mean I wasn't fearful. And as we spoke, we bonded. Tarek and I grew closer and closer. I began to see him as a true companion. As you have likely heard by now, we've become so close that we call ourselves brothers.
Hence why Tarek is his brother.
Fall on our journey. He never once saw me as just an animal, always as a person. And likewise, I helped him however I could, supported him whenever he needed me. While he did help me to open up, I think just having a companion helped him be more open and outgoing. Tarek
I guess so.
is somewhat introverted under normal circumstances, though surprisingly he's at his most outgoing at larger events. There's an interesting story about an event we'd gone to. but I'll save that for another time. I suppose part of our bond was that we viewed one another as kindred spirits. He was not the average dragon, and I was far from the average wolf.
Well,
We both
definitely
were
way
searching the
far.
world for something deep and meaningful to us. Though on the other hoof, we are opposites in ways that benefit the other. I'm typically more grounded, while he's more of a joker when we interact. And I think that makes
I
us
see.
good for one another. I suppose all of these things put together is why our bond is so close. But despite all of this, I admit Tarek alone wasn't the only companionship I longed for. Keep in mind, dragons, even one as different from his kind as Tarek, are still dragons, not ponies.
That's
Having
true.
been practically raised being the loyal companion of a pony had left an impression on me. Back then, I may have moved on to a new life, but to help a pony was something I simply couldn't shake off. In fact, I
Ah,
suppose a part of me didn't want to. It was the one aspect of my past I felt could play a part of my new purpose. And while I had a vague idea what Master had wanted me to do, I still had no idea the specifics or reasons for why he made me. I knew the ends, but not the beginnings or meanings. So I also hoped that perhaps being around other ponies might show me a more precise reason why, or jog some long-forgotten memory. As
that's
you
a
can very
wise
well
choice.
see, that was merely the start. Now I've seen everything from ponies to hippogriffs in this office of mine. But all big things begin with little ones, and my little one was a simple desire to aid ponies as I had aided the Master.
I
Tarek
see.
asked me if that was sincerely what I wanted, and when I agreed, he promised to take me to a place where ponies lived so we could perhaps find answers. To a kingdom called Equestria. It was a long journey
Canterlot.
across several lands. I grew more and more excited and nervous the closer we got to our destination. The Master often talked to me, not me to him, and then I'd spent countless years without any interaction at all. I simply never had a
see.
chance to develop very good necessary social skills, and I worried that this shortcoming would be my downfall and ruin my new, still fragile dreams. But as he
I
had
see.
done since he'd met me, Tarek took it upon himself to help me to open up and be able to express myself more. And as it would
Uh-huh.
ultimately turn out, being so used to listening wasn't just a weakness, but a strength.
That's true.
Eventually we reached Equestria's borders, and I'm thankful it is such an accepting place. After all, I am
Ah.
the only creature of my kind, and while I was treated as a curiosity for it, I had little trouble being accepted
think
as
he's-
a sapient creature.
I could
This
take a
was
wild guess
nation
where he
where
is now.
dragons, ponies, griffins, minotaurs, and countless other species lived and were seen as equals.
Judging from the music, I think I know where he probably is. He's like, given that it's a Western background, he's either in, like, he and Tarek are probably in either Dodge Junction or Appaloosa, or as Brayburn would say,
Appaloosa!
but yeah, that's either one of those two places. Because they're the only two places I know of in Equestria that have a wild western background. So they're probably either in those places. Anyway, let's continue.
So a sapient wolf, while unusual, was simply another unique flavor in the melting pot. Still,
Uh-huh.
that didn't change the fact that, as an immigrant who intended to potentially stay, I had to fill out a good bit of paperwork. Most difficult of all were the citizenship papers, which I
I
will
see.
say isn't very easy when you're a one-of-a-kind species and don't even
Sorry,
know
guys.
how old you are. Interacting with ponies for the first time in so long was a tad strange, admittedly. They
Well,
were
an
nothing like
Anthro-wolf
Master,
walking
but most
amongst
were
ponies,
intelligent,
I guess it would
kind,
be
and civil.
unusual.
I got many odd
Same as a
looks,
person
but
walking
I
into
can thankfully
Equestria.
say prejudice is not something Equestria has in large amounts. Though I did end up having to have my medical exam from a vet and not a doctor, since my biology was still that of a canine, if heavily altered. Still,
True.
she was a nice pony, if a bit lonely. When I noticed and questioned that, she explained that her job was to check out any pets that were coming from foreign lands through this specific checkpoint. But this meant she spent most of her days in the middle of nowhere with only guards and other workers for company. She missed her family and friends back home, even if she still traded letters with them.
I guess that's true.
Was getting used to being social, but I did explain that I sympathized with her after my many years in isolation. I made a comparison to Tarek and I, and how having one person as a close companion had greatly helped me. She listened and decided that maybe getting to be closer friends with those around her to help make the long time on the job more bearable. I never got her name, as I was still getting used to the importance ponies placed on them, and we left with little fanfare. But looking back on that moment, I think I owe that mare a great deal for helping plant a seed in me that would grow into something wonderful.
I see.
After all the paperwork and technicalities were settled, we began heading towards the nearest town. In this case, we'd entered Equestria from the south, and Appaloosa had not yet been built.
Appaloosa.
So the nearest town was Dodge Junction. Do remember that the only civilization I'd really ever seen before was Master's Den. So the sight of a cow pony town was very new and unusual to me. The locals were enthusiastic and had an energy to them that did frighten me at first, but quickly became contagious.
Go on, Sam. Ask Rosie for a dance. I think I'll just have another ale. Oh, no you don't. Go on.
I see.
It was difficult not to get caught up in it. It was just such a love of life. Tarek encouraged me to exploit that feeling to perhaps get started on my journey of self-discovery. Conveniently, there was a cherry orchard in Dodge Junction.
Yes, I remember her.
Cherry Jubilee.
Cherry Jubilee.
At the time, they were a few
Dodge
days
Junction.
short, and in my desire to be helpful, I volunteered my aid in harvesting the crop. The cherry orchard is not a place a wolf forgets easily. The sights and smells were so vibrant and new. Keep in mind, the color red was in and of itself something I'd once never been able to see. So the sight of an orchard of bright pink cherry trees was stunning. I was quite hopeful this would be a place I could be at home, and finally begin helping ponies as I planned.
I see.
Sadly, that wasn't the case, as fate would have it. I may have been far smarter and more dexterous, but I was still a little wolf. I didn't even come close to reaching even the lowest hanging branches of the cherry trees.
Well, they gotta be bucked off.
Collect the ones that had fallen, but were still good enough to be used. Even the sorting process was difficult, as I was too short to reach the table, and standing on a conveyor belt wasn't something anyone was comfortable with me trying. So while I was capable of helping some, I couldn't help nearly as much as I wanted to.
Well, look at the bright side, Dr. Wolf. At least you didn't screw up like the main six did in one episode in the last roundup. So be thankful you didn't screw up with that. Anyway, let's continue.
However, while I was staying in Dodge Junction, something very interesting happened. I came across Cherry Jubilee alone in the orchard one morning while giving the situation thought. I don't believe she noticed me, either because of my size or simply because ponies weren't quite used to expecting canines of being capable of knowing what's going on.
That is true.
I sensed she was distressed. Very distressed. I can't exactly explain what caused me to approach her, but I just felt like it was the right thing to do. Like I'd regret it if I didn't. So I spoke with Miss
That's wise.
Julie, and while she was hesitant to talk about it at first, I simply suggested there couldn't be any harm in it. She revealed that her job had become very stressful as of late. Without enough
Really?
hooves to properly manage their crop, she was reaching her wits' end trying to make it all work, trying to keep her business running smoothly despite the fear of failing and losing it all.
I see.
The orchard had remained in her family for quite some time. Losing it was inconceivable to her. Once
I see.
again, I found myself sympathizing with her. After so many years of doing my work for the Master, the fear of failure was one I knew very well. The feeling that if you do one thing wrong, you're letting yourself and everyone depending on you down. And that little voice was always asking you if you've done enough. So I told her more or less exactly that. That I knew how it felt to be in that situation, and that while in my case I needed to leave my work for my own good, while I had Tarek there to talk with and understand me, I felt much better than I had in a very long time.
I
In
see.
the end, she decided that perhaps it would be a good idea to share her own troubles with somebody else she knew. However, despite being able to help some, I still felt dejected at how little I had perceived myself as having accomplished. Tarek told me that it simply
I see.
wasn't my thing, and we could try elsewhere. If I didn't belong in Dodge Junction, logically there must be somewhere else I belong. So we moved on.
Really? Hey, I recognize that music. That's in Heartswarming Eve, when they're right at the
Our
start
next stop was
where the main
Manhattan,
six are traveling on the
thanks to
train.
train system. I have to laugh thinking back at how jumpy I was in that first ride. I was a bundle of nerves, and while I wasn't hiding under the seat, I found myself startled at every jolt. I did calm down by the time I arrived, but it was my first real taste of modern technology, and it
I
did
see.
take some getting used to. Though there was a funny moment where a filly on the train mistook me for Tarek's pet, and
Aww.
wanted to hold me and scratch behind my ears. Such is the life when you're a sapient wolf.
That's cute. Besides, a little kid wanting to pet a anthropomorphic talking wolf. I mean, what kid wouldn't want to? What kid wouldn't want to? Besides, I think that's cute. Anyway, let's continue.
When we finally arrived at our destination, I tried my paws at helping a local newspaper office in need of paper colts, but I was too small to effectively carry much for long distances, and the ink
I'm
from the
surprised.
presses dyed me black for a week. Something that was rather problematic when Tarek took me to a showing of a film with a rather frightening black wolf scene during that time. But I did give the editor some advice about dealing with his daughter during a very large argument that happened in the middle of the office. I remembered my
I see.
master's argument with his master, and how afterward they never saw one another
excuse me.
again, parting with obvious distress. I admit that I have no idea if that was what happened with the master, but suggesting that perhaps it was better to forgive and work through the source of the problem than let it potentially destroy their relationship did feel like a good idea. It was something I'd recalled whenever Tarek and I had arguments, rare as they were, and something I sincerely feared. I think
I
they
see.
honestly just needed a calm head to remind them that they did love one another. But while that did seem to help resolve the problem, as with Dodge Junction, I left the job in Manhattan with disappointment in my heart and on my mind. As with when we were on our adventures before, I could fill a novel with our misadventures and my numerous attempts at fitting in. I suppose you could say I was much like young Applebloom and her friends here in Ponyville, not knowing my place or what my destiny was, but desperately searching for it. Every location in town was the same. I tried to assist ponies in some small way, but ultimately the limitations of what I am foiled my attempts. But while I didn't notice it at the time, most of the places I visited had a common theme. Ponies, despite my unusual status, still seemed to be more willing to let their guard down around me for reasons I'd discover more later on. And when they did, I had trouble seeing them suffering, and tried to do something to comfort them.
That's
Still,
very noble.
I kept becoming more upset.
Wolves are
and
very
frustrated
noble
as
animals,
time
after
went
all.
on, as I imagine anyone would. I just wasn't able to help as much as I hoped to, or that I felt that I should have been able to. I suppose I almost became depressed with my situation. I can't imagine what I'd have done if I was alone and didn't have someone by my side.
I see.
Tarek decided perhaps a change of scenery might be for the best, and we should go to a very different town, namely Equestria's capital city of Canterlot.
I see. Canterlot.
This was admittedly the first time
Oh,
I'd
and that's,
ever really gotten
the
dressed
song.
like you see me now.
That's
At the
every
time, Tarek's
the type of
preferences
pony
to
every
it had
pony should
rubbed off
know.
on me to a degree, but I hadn't really gotten into the suit and tie look. However, walking around naked in Canterlot wasn't something that would be accepted by most citizens, no matter what species you were.
Well, that's very surprising, considering that ponies are supposed to be naked. I mean, you know, like ponies aren't supposed to really wear clothes, but I guess you do have a point. An anthro wolf walking around naked around a town would probably attract a lot of bad attention, don't you think?
Oh, you are naked.
But anyway, I see his point. Anyway, continue.
As you can tell, the experience grew on me and became something I enjoyed taking part in. Canterlot was actually rather intimidating to me, not because of the size, but because of the overall demeanor of the city.
Well, most of them
Manhattan had
are
been busy
full
and
of
big,
snobs.
but ponies there didn't act superior. In Canterlot, I felt like even what I was didn't attract much attention. Tarek suggested that the city probably saw ambassadors of all types there to see the princess, and was likely desensitized to the strangeness. But it still felt painful.
Uh-huh.
I know not all Canterlot ponies are like that, but those that are stood out quite a bit, and it made my desires a little bit more difficult to try and reach. Do remember, I was looking for opportunities to help ponies, and if I was ignored, finding that opportunity to do so was not going to be an easy task.
Well, at least he didn't
after
run into
several empty
Jet
hours
Set
of
and Upper
searching
Crust.
high and low for somewhere I could help, Tarek came up with the idea of going to the Canterlot archives to see if there was any answers about my origins or the library. While it had taken a back seat to my primary goals, I still wanted to find out about those things. The archives were home to Equestria's largest stores of knowledge, and largely open to the public, so
Uh-huh.
it seemed like a good idea. I ironically found Canterlot Castle itself far less intimidating than the city proper. It reminded me of the vague memories I had of being brought back home by the master that night.
Really?
The comfort I'd felt when I experienced true warmth for the first time in my life. And the archives
Twilight would be at
themselves
home in
did
there.
have a certain sense of comfort to them, though that might have been as much because they differed from the library in all the right ways than being similar to it in all the wrong ones. It was a place of learning and knowledge, but lacked the sense of being otherworldly that made the library frightening.
I see.
Perhaps that's why I spent a good deal of time at Twilight's library after coming to Ponyville, until recent events. Sadly, we found nothing related to me or the master or even the library itself, and certain branches of the archives were only accessible by royals or those with special access. And we
Like
were
Twilight,
neither.
for instance.
We were right
It's
back
like
at
the
square
restricted
one.
section of
I
Equestria.
left the archives feeling frustrated and angry. Months of tension finally began to boil over. I even gave Tarek a bit of a cold shoulder for a short time, lost in my own emotions. It was painful.
I
to
could
have
never
all of
imagine
my
Dr. Wolf
efforts up to
angry.
that point fail. then to not only have no opportunities to even try to help, but fail at a secondary goal. That doesn't make trying to disregard Tarek's attempts to help any more justified, but I just felt like I was at my wit's end. Canterlot was beginning to feel like the straw that would break the camel's back. I was upset and in pain.
Celestia to the
Tarek
rescue.
simply had the misfortune of being present for my bad mood. But as fate would have it, when we prepared to leave, I noticed some symbols inscribed in the castle. They were symbols I'd seen in the library or in one of the countless books that were located there. Their meaning had long since faded from my memory, but there was no mistaking how familiar they felt.
I
As
see.
I stood examining these symbols, the princess herself happened by and noticed. I explained the situation, and she said the symbols were very old, very ancient, and that few could even know of them. Admittedly, I was at first afraid I'd somehow gotten myself into trouble. I'd never met Princess Celestia before. I only knew of her from second-hand accounts, and that ponies did fear disappointing her. I had no idea.
I don't know all ponies, but I know Twilight fears disappointing Celestia a lot, even though that Celestia doesn't give a shit. Because, you know, Celestia is like the Equestria's alternative to Albus Dumbledore. She can be a bit of a troll. Sorry, that was but yeah. Anyway, let's continue.
Who she was. And just like any Omega Wolf, I was afraid of angering the Alpha by instinct.
I see.
Instead, I was politely asked to come talk to her in private, and it was quite the opposite of what I had expected. Princess Celestia was quick to show me sympathy in regards to my one-of-a-kind existence when I revealed it. Being one of 2 alicorns presently in Equestria herself, she also gave me her condolences about the Master, and told me something I'm sure all of Equestria is now well aware of, that she knew what those feelings of loss felt like.
I see.
What it was like to see a loved one drift away and finally disappear into the darkness. I admit, after being treated with such coldness by the majority of Canterlot, it felt very surreal for the highest authority in the land to be so compassionate and kind. A friend of mine is of the opinion that any who think of Princess Celestia as a tyrant have never met the kind and motherly pony she actually is.
That's
That is a
true.
good description of the impression Princess Celestia left on me. When she looked on me, she didn't see a strange creature, an abomination, or even one too low for her to notice. She saw a living being that was deserving of her attention and kindness.
That's
I did
true.
open a bit up to her and explain my current problems, the pain I was in, the turmoil I'd been dealing with for all this time. And I still remember what she told me. A pony's cutie mark only appears when the moment is right. It cannot be forced. While it is normal for blank flanks to try, it is ultimately a futile effort. Likewise, no more can any other creature's true special talent and destiny be uncovered before its time, and trying to force them is just as futile. The best thing to do
wish
is
the
to
CMC
pursue
would
what
learn
makes you
that.
happy. Continue to try and do good and noble things for the right reasons, and the door will open in time. And most important of all, don't go at it alone. Having friends can make the long wait feel that much shorter.
One of the most comforting feelings a man can have in this world of ours is never to be alone.
I suppose this does sound similar to some of my
cuddles.
interactions with my patients. That same variety of kind wisdom Princess Celestia showed me is what I try to present to others, because it's a wisdom that they're likely to feel has their best interests at heart. My goal is to comfort others, and I suppose in a way, I did learn it from Princess Celestia's kindness towards me. I believe an old saying is adequate for this situation. Kindness begins like ripples in water. One act of kindness ripples outwards and spreads. I honestly believe that ponies having that attitude in general is part of why Equestria is such a wonderful place to live. As the
I
time to
guess
go
so.
came, Princess Celestia met Tarek, and we explained that we were brothers in all but blood. Princess Celestia told us in a surprisingly somber tone that we were lucky to have one another, and we should never let our brother slip away.
That's
Needless
true.
to say, after that I apologized to Tarek for allowing my stress to get the better of me. I felt so awful about taking out some of my despair on my brother, on the one who least deserved it. Thankfully, Tarek forgave me and was understanding, as I had been with the close call escaping the desert. I wasn't perfect. We all have moments of weakness
Nobody's
and anger,
perfect.
but that doesn't make us bad creatures. However, Canterlot was not the end of my journey. No, the final leg of my quest would lead me to a most unexpected place. Not the
Ponyville?
big city of Manhattan or the bustling capital city of Canterlot,
It's
but
Ponyville.
to somewhere far more
Yep,
quiet,
it is.
off the beaten track.
Ponyville, obviously. Because that's where I reckon Dr. Wolf's office is. Wow. Well, this was good. Special thanks to T-Rex. As always, thanks, You're welcome, Dr. Wolf. Well, what do I have to say about this? Well, I thought it was actually very interesting, getting to see a little bit more of Dr. Wolf's backstory and how he developed the drive to help ponies in need. You know, it's amazing what you can actually learn by learning it from others. You know, it's a visual thing. I'd say that probably Dr. Wolf is like a wolf that learns from reading and interaction, and and past experiences. That's what I reckon he probably learns by. So, yeah, and I thought this was actually a very, very good chapter. I'm interested to find out what happens in chapter 4, but that probably won't be for another long while. So, yeah, but luckily enough, on FimFiction, I've put Dr. Wolf as one of my people to follow. So no doubt I'll be looking at the keeping updates on the chapters to find out what happens. I probably won't read the chapters. I'll probably wait until like he uploads a video and react to it and then read it afterwards. But yeah, I thought this chapter was actually very interesting. And yeah, like it was, some parts of it actually had a bit of an impact on me. But I guess that's probably what Dr. Wolf does. He just has this. It's not just how he talks and how he helps others and how he analyzes things. Dr. Wolf just has this incredible feeling about him. When you're near, when you hear him, you just feel comfortable and you just want to listen. It's a very, it's a gift that a gift that some can very few can master. It just has this personality, this voice that makes you want to listen. and I've seen it in a few other like it's something I've seen in a few others, like for instance Roger Clinton, like the Australian news presenter for Channel 7, and like he had a voice, like his voice had something that makes you just want to listen. I kind of see Dr. Wolf as like that. And but yeah, yeah. So anyway, that was chapter 3 of Memories of the Equestrian Wolf, and yeah, I'm trying out this, like I mentioned earlier in the video, I'm trying out this moving background, and if it's good enough, it might, yeah, if it's good enough, let me know in the comments, and yeah, if it's not, then I'll have to try another background, but, you know, this is just, like, this is only a test, so, yeah, and yeah, if this new moving background is successful, I can upload them on, like I can start uploading my blind reactions on YouTube again. So, like even the ones I did from season 1, like the first episode, I can try and do that. If it's successful, I'll do that. Like while I'm writing the script for my fan project. Oh, speaking of my fan project, I just want to also let you know that I've finished the first episode script. I know it took a long while, but I was sidetracked and all of that. But, and like, with TAFE work, and plus I was also doing chapters of my, I was also writing fan fiction stories on FimFiction, and especially one fan fiction I'm working on, that I've been writing, which is a pop star, a princess, and a prisoner. So if you want to check out my fan fictions, I'll leave a link in the description below, and you can check it out. But anyway, yeah, But anyway, I'm working on the second episode script, and I'll, yeah, while I'm, I'll continue working on that, and while I'm also working on, while I'm also hopefully reposting my MLP blind reactions. So yeah, I thought I'd give you the loop on what's going on. I hope you enjoyed my blind commentary to Memories of the Equestrian Wolf Chapter 3, and hopefully I shall get onto another video as soon as I can when I get the chance. But, as usual, until then, thank you all for watching. This is Raptormon 132 saying, bye bye everyone.